Hello everybody and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. I picked a topic that I'm getting a lot of inquiries about, and it is this jury award for $289 million against Monsanto. So let me just start at the beginning. Monsanto is the company we all love to hate, and there are a whole lot of reasons for it. They definitely deserve it. The company makes and markets genetically modified seeds and uses a wide network of investigators and attorneys along with heavy-handed tactics to go after farmers who infringe on their patents. And the things they do are genuinely terrible. I mean, they've even pursued legal action against farmers who unwittingly had some of their plants growing in their fields because of wind drift and things beyond their control. I mean, some of the stories that have been written about them, they deserve all the bad feelings they get from the public. One of Monsanto's most profitable product lines has been genetically modified seeds that are resistant to its own herbicide, Roundup. And this has allowed farmers to literally douse their fields with enormous amounts of the weed killer without killing the crops. Subsequently, Monsanto received a patent on the seeds, as well as a whole lot of other seeds and other products, which paved the way for it and a few other companies to potentially gain control of at least some of the world's food supply. And having the world's food supply controlled by bad actors, not a good plan, as you might imagine. Indeed, since the 1980s, Monsanto has received 674 biotechnology patents, more than any other single company in the world. By purchasing other seed companies, Monsanto has become the largest seed company in the world, now controls 90% of the U.S. production of soybeans. Roundup has become a ubiquitous herbicide. People use it at home. It's used in farming situations and all over. It can be used on over 100 crops. It's sold in 130 countries. Its primary ingredient is glyphosate, the safety of which has been questioned for many, many years. Some of the health issues attributed to glyphosate include an increased risk of non-hodgkins lymphoma, birth defects, miscarriages, and liver disease. The World Health Organization and the United States Food and Agriculture Organization concluded in 2016 that glyphosate is unlikely to pose a carcinogenic risk to humans from exposure through diet. But the World Health Organization's International Agency for Cancer Research labeled glyphosate probably carcinogenic to humans in 2015. So there you see the confusion that continues to reign over is it safe, is it not, etc. One concern about studies that have shown Roundup to be safe is that most of the tests have been conducted on glyphosate by itself, not on Roundup, which contains other ingredients which are kept secret and listed on the label as inerts. Concerns about Roundup go beyond the risks associated with eating foods which have been sprayed with it and include risks associated with spraying, actually doing the spraying of the herbicide, such as effects that it might have on the eyes, skin, or even inhaling it. At this time, there are over 5,000 lawsuits pending against Monsanto concerning its weed killers that contain glyphosate. They have a whole line of products that do. The first one to go to trial just resulted in a $289 million verdict against the company. $39 million of that was for compensatory damages and the rest was for punitive damages. The lawsuit was filed by Dwayne Johnson, a pest control manager for a school district in the San Francisco area. Johnson applied large amounts of two Monsanto products, Roundup and Ranger Pro, to school grounds, sometimes as often as 30 times per year, according to the lawsuit. He sometimes ended up doused with the products when he applied them during times when the wind was heavy. Once when a hose broke, his entire body was soaked with the weed killer. During the trial, Johnson said that he had read the label and contacted the company after he developed a rash, but he was not told that there was any risk of developing cancer as a result of his exposure. Johnson was diagnosed with non-hodgkins lymphoma in 2004, and his trial was fast-tracked because of the severity of his disease and the speed at which it was progressing. And in fact, his doctors have said that he's unlikely to live past 2020. Not surprisingly, Monsanto plans to appeal the verdict. George Lombardi, one of Monsanto's lawyers, told one news outlet that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma takes many years to develop, and it most likely started developing before Johnson was employed to work in pest control. Most likely, Monsanto will win on appeal, ironically due to information provided by Johnson in his defense itself. Johnson claimed to read the label on the product, and I went online and I read the label, and it includes these statements: avoid contact with eyes or clothing. Applicators and other handlers must wear long-sleeve shirt and long pants, shoes plus socks. Discard clothing and other absorbent materials that have been drenched or heavily contaminated with this product's concentrate. Do not reuse them. Users should wash hands before eating, drinking, chewing gum, using tobacco, or using the toilet. Remove clothing immediately if pesticide gets inside, then wash thoroughly and put on clean clothing. Notice to user: this pest control product is to be used only in accordance with the directions on the label. It is an offense under the Pest Control Products Act to use this product in a way that is inconsistent with the directions on the label. Well, frankly, the label doesn't say that the product will cause cancer, but it clearly makes the product sound dangerous by anybody's definition. And Monsanto's lawyers may claim that Johnson should have known better than to apply the herbicide during, if he read the label, during periods of high wind, or to reuse or rewear any of the clothes that had gotten doused with the herbicide. Another problem is that it's really difficult to prove that a single agent causes cancer. In some cases, when you're suing, the cause of death is clear. The plane crashed, the car accident happened. But it's a little bit different with cancer because it's caused by so many different factors. It's relatively easy to cast doubt when a plaintiff claims that cancer or any health condition results from the use or consumption of one single product. It's likely that all of the issues that I brought up here will be used during the appeal. And this is what happened with the tobacco lawsuits that were filed decades ago at the very beginning of trying to do something about smoking. Many of the plaintiffs who claimed to have developed lung cancer due to smoking, they were overweight, they were sick, they had multiple risk factors for cancer, they took drugs. It was impossible to prove that cancer was a result of smoking alone. Now, this benefited the tobacco companies in the beginning. Even when juries delivered verdicts to sympathetic plaintiffs, cigarette makers won on appeal for two reasons. One was that judges are more objective than juries, and blaming one culprit for disease is scientifically not possible for diseases that have several causes. So it's that casting doubt thing that I mentioned earlier. But this does not mean that Monsanto will ultimately escape financial liability. Good attorneys learn from each lawsuit they file, whether they win or lose. In the case of the tobacco companies, fewer lawsuits were filed claiming that cigarettes cause lung cancer, and instead, more were filed claiming that the cigarette makers knew that their products were dangerous and addictive and deliberately withheld this information from consumers and misled the public through advertising that the products were safe. And those were claims that could be proven. And those were indeed the claims that generated large verdicts that were held up on appeal. Eventually, there was so much success by the trial lawyers that lawsuits were filed by states against the tobacco companies saying that the tobacco companies should pay for the health issues caused by their products. The pressure cumulatively was so much that the tobacco companies proposed a settlement. They were the ones who came to the table, with the states that restricted advertising, disbanded lobbying and trade groups, granted easy access to internal company documents, and provided funding for a national anti-smoking education program. Monsanto's lawyers are preparing to win on appeal, and most likely will get at least part of this verdict set aside. But in the meantime, Johnson's lawyers and the other attorneys involved in the thousands of other cases are watching carefully, and they're prepared to change their strategies as needed. There's enough wrong with Roundup, and Monsanto's engaged in enough misbehavior to be hopeful about future verdicts and punishment for the company everybody loves to hate. So I'll keep you posted. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I enjoy following this type of legal action. And I like seeing the bad guys get punished, and I know you do too. So more to follow. Couple things. First of all, next week is Labor Day, and I'm going to take a little time off. Don't tell the others, and I promise I will never do it again, but I'm going to take some time off. So there will be video clips only on Thursday, because Tuesday is the day after the holiday, and you're probably going to be hungover from eating too much broccoli on Labor Day and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, there will just be one video clips on Thursday. Newsletter will go out on Tuesday that week, next week. So that's all for the week. A couple things. Don't eat anything on the Labor Day weekend that I wouldn't eat. So hear the little voice in the back of my head talking to you as you're getting ready to do something terrible, because that'll make you put it back down, so that you end up on Tuesday healthier than you were before the holiday weekend started. And then, of course, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. Before you do this, hit subscribe, become a subscriber, so we can grow our subscriber base and start giving out prizes as we hit benchmarks. And of course, if you click on the little bell, you'll be reminded or notified when more videos are posted. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. I'll talk to you next week. I'll be back with more news and exciting things to discuss.